Notre Dame, 11-1, currently ranked, if I'm not mistaken, 4th by the College Football Playoff Committee. Right now, they're seeded 6th, but if you take a look at the CFB playoff rankings, they're 4th. Georgia 5th, The Ohio State 6th, Ohio and Tennessee is 7. And they just get knocked down certain pegs with Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State, and Tennessee are 3 through 7 in the rankings. But Penn State is 5 in the rankings. Notre Dame is 6 in the rankings. Georgia's 7th in the rankings, the seedings. And Ohio State and Tennessee are 8 and 9. And the reason why is because, well, SMU and Boise State lower in the rankings, but higher in the seeds because there's a requirement to put conference champions in the seeded positions. And unfortunately for the Big 12, Arizona State and Iowa State playing for its championship, too low down the rankings to even be considered prior to their championship game as a bye-week seeded team. So they put SMU from the ACC in that spot, and they put Boise State from the Mountain West in that spot. And Notre Dame isn't even allowed to be considered for that spot because they are independent. And as long as they remain independent, I guess their penalty for that is they're not able to be eligible for a bye week. And as long as those are the rulings, that's the way it is. So my question for everybody here is, let's remove that filter. Let's remove that caveat. Let's remove that rule. Who would the 4 teams be for bye week eligible? Who would they be if you were on the College Football Playoff Committee and you could just throw any 4 into a bye week spot based on their schedule or excellence or whatever eye test? You would definitely, Oregon would go through. Right?
Yeah, Oregon's hands down the
Oregon's
one seed.
in,
Easily
right?
The 1 seed, yeah.
Texas would be in as well.
I think so.
Right? You'd have to put Notre Dame in there. You would have to have Notre Dame as one of the bye week teams.
Kind of think so.
Right?
Yeah, they have 3 wins against ranked teams, ranked at the time. The one slip up in week 2. Other than that, they've been pretty dominant.
And you'd be cheeky if you're the College Football Playoff Committee prior to the championship games. You'd throw Penn State in there as well.
I mean, I would.
Well, you would because they're 11-1, and you'd put them in there with their 1 loss to the Ohio State. You'd put them in there with the sort of dangled carrot that, hey, if they lose, they're out, and you could be in. In the same way that the 4-team playoff setup in previous years was set up. And then there would be an argument back in the day, well, if Georgia loses to Alabama, even though they're undefeated, are they still one of the 4 teams that get in? And Alabama goes. So it would be 2 SEC teams, and which team would get bounced out? Remember those conversations you used to have every single year, this time of year? You'd be having that conversation right now if we were able to throw out there who gets to play their way in or play their way out. Or do you say, hey, Penn State is in, and it doesn't matter if they lose, because we're not penalizing somebody for making the conference championship game. And all I will say in that argument is this, because we're going to hear that argument as to who gets a bye week and who doesn't, who gets a home playoff game if they're not going to be a bye week team and who doesn't, or who makes it and who doesn't. I will say to the College Football Playoff Committee saying, we don't want to penalize anybody for playing in the conference championship game. My answer to that is, why not? Well, listen, the teams that are sitting at home can't win or lose, can't help themselves, can't hurt themselves. Why should a team that has played better than them for the right to play for their conference championship be penalized for losing? Oh, but they can help themselves by winning, but not be penalized by losing. Is that the case? So it's just, well, it's a win-win. It's kind of like that line from Raging Bull. Even if you lose, you win. right?
Like LeVar Ball would say.
So I don't understand that. So, sure, you can help yourself, Penn State, by winning.
Even when you lose, I win.
You, however, shouldn't get penalized for losing to Oregon unless you get blown out. Now suddenly we're making this a competition that is objective.
The score has always been a factor in college football.
And I get it, and that's why. Did you hear your Penn State head coach James Franklin talking about the handshake after the Maryland Penn State game, where Coach Loxley held on? He had a lock hold.
Oh yeah, it got real.
Made it look like we're just having a genial conversation, but no, it was anything but.
Yeah.
And Franklin afterwards said, "Hey,
we got our threes and fours.
We got style points that we have to worry about here, and we got 3s and 4s when they get out there. They want to score.
And
they want to show what they can do. And we need to see what they can do. So too bad."
Yeah, Penn State scored with no time left against Maryland.
I understand, and I don't know if James Franklin sometimes rankles people just by talking. But I'm bringing all of this up to say, well, we don't want to penalize them for having conference championship game appearances or losing or getting blown out in them. Then why are we playing these damn games?
Exactly.
Because you want more money. And in putting together this system, you already pissed off the loud, jacketed bowl representatives around the country. You finally got past their anger by saying, well, maybe we'll give you a college football semifinal game. Or maybe we'll give you a college football quarterfinal game, right? Whatever you want to call it. Or maybe we'll just, put you in a rotation. And suddenly the loud, jacketed people, you don't hear from them as much anymore. And they're not as much of a consideration. They're kind of a speed bump towards the more money. Well, whoever's in charge of the conference championship games, let's tune them out too. Oregon has won it, and SMU has won it, and Boise State has won it, and the rest, too bad. We're done. We're done. We're done with the conference championship games. They are superfluous. Now, can they play themselves in? Somebody can play themselves in? Great. And if that's the case, if somebody like Clemson can play themselves in and SMU can play themselves out, and if somebody like Iowa State can play themselves in and Arizona State would play themselves out, then whoever does play in this game needs to be penalized for losing. I'm sorry. And if you don't want to go ahead and handle that tough reality, then don't play them. Don't play them. Am I wrong or am I right? Please tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead. Somebody can call me, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. I'm fine with it.
I'm wondering if a team in a position where if they lose they're out just refuses to play. We're not showing up.
Yep.
So, you know what the scenario is in this respect? Is you're playing in your fantasy league playoff game, right? And you're up on somebody who is 1 point behind you. And that person can't score another point because their entire roster's played. The person that you're playing in the Monday Nighter, if that person fumbles on the first snap, you're now suddenly losing.
Right.
So you take that person, just bench that person, and you win.
Yeah.
That's the way, that is the philosophy. Where you just don't show. You're SMU and you're like, I'm not playing in the game.
Not playing in the game. We've done enough on our merits up to this point.
Would that
to
ever happen?
deserve
Could
a
you
spot.
imagine? We're not showing. We're not coming.
I'm trying to think fantasy football wise how that would work.
Well, if you have a defense,
Yeah,
and you have
I'm
your
saying,
defense to
You
go Monday
bench it.
night, you bench
Yeah.
it.
I'm not playing. I'm not playing where I can lose points.
already winning.
I'm
just
already
saying,
winning.
I've never even had that
Is that
scenario.
right?
Really
We've
happen.
had it multiple. I've had it multiple times.
Yeah.
We've had people do that in one league, in my poker league, where it affected whether somebody else made the playoffs or not, and infuriated. It was a huge to-do over that.
What was the final verdict?
I don't remember. I was the commissioner. What do I care? Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.